My name is Laura Smitherman, and I was born into a very dysfunctional but church-going family. Lost my virginity to a date rape. I ended up pregnant. And his mother told me exactly what I would do because I was not going to ruin the rest of his life. And she took me to Montgomery. I grew up in Selma, and dropped me off. And said, "You'll do what I tell you to do. You're not going to ruin things for my son." So I just went through it. I never told anybody. I never had any idea what kind of pain and guilt that would leave me with. And 8 years later, at the age of 23, due to, I don't know if it was genetic, I don't know if it was because some of the damage that he had done to me in that area. And the doctor just sat across his desk from me and said, "Oh, and you'll never be able to have children." And it's like the whole world went black. Because all I could see was that that was God punishing me for what I had done. And I know that that had a lot to do with why I allowed myself to be abused, because in my mind, I deserved to suffer. That's the way it was supposed to be. And the more you get beat, the more you feel like you deserve it. There were times when I would just claw my arms till they bled everywhere to suffer more. I would just whack at my wrist. There's a scar on my neck from razors because I deserved to be in more pain. And I just got to a really dark place where everything I believed was all I'm doing is hurting the people that I love. And I truly believed that the best thing I could do for them was to be gone. They could grieve my passing, but then I wouldn't still be around to hurt them every day. So I snuck in. I was having to stay with my parents at the time. So I snuck into their room because I knew where Daddy hid his handguns. And I got the .38. And I walked in there. I left him a very long letter. And I laid down on the couch and asked God to take me home. And I pulled the trigger. I came within less than 1/8 of an inch of blowing the aorta wide open. It pierced the lung, which collapsed, cracked a couple of ribs, and like I said, grazed the aorta on the way out. And when I woke up in the hospital, all I could think was I couldn't even do that right. It wasn't some glorious, "Oh, thank you, God, you saved me." All it was I couldn't even get that right. That had a lot of guilt that I just never was able to let go of. And all the stuff with the abusive guy before I came to the Love Lady had caused me to be a lot less time with my family. I didn't want them to know what was going on. He threatened and actually drove me to their apartment and showed me that he knew how to get in their back deadbolt. And when I tried to kick him out, he came back very quickly and said, "Well, if you don't let me stay here, I don't have to worry about it because I have a place to stay and there's not a damn thing they can do about it." So there wasn't any way to get rid of it. Ironically, it was going to jail that ended everything with him. And when I got to jail, I was so bad off, I could not even push the button to flush the toilet. I was so weak and so damaged. But again, the guilt about the suicide attempt, and then the enormous guilt. Because after I got here, and my daddy was so proud, but all I could think about was how much time I didn't spend with him. I got here in July, And December 7th, my brother's head dropped. I've never seen that boy cry. And he stood up and he went over there by the wall, and I said, "What's going on?" And all he could say was, "Daddy's gone." And all I could think was all that time I missed, all those things I screwed up. Did my daddy really know that I loved him and that I was sorry? And I had absolutely no idea how to get past that. And so that was a huge thing in my things I need to forgive. And I needed to forgive me. I was just so depressed, and it seemed like I had tried everything. And just out of, I don't know what else to do. Well, I heard about a class that dealt with spiritual warfare and finding freedom. And I was so desperate for it that I was willing to try anything. The more we talked in that class, and the more the teacher shared about what it does, and little by little, you find freedom from one thing. And the abusive people, I had to be able to forgive them, because the longer that anger and that hurt ate at me, it was stealing joy from every day of my life, way more so than I realized. In my mind, I was thinking, well, I've forgiven them and I'm moving on with my life. No, I didn't. And there was so much, I'm gonna cry, buried anger, and there were a lot of categories that you look at with the people that hurt you. And when I started looking at all the ways those things hurt me, is when I realized I have been in those chains for all these years, since I was 15. It's no wonder I don't know freedom. There's so much healing that can't take place if I don't really get inside my heart and get with God and get rid of this unforgiveness. And as I did, and we do a prayer of freedom, and I had to pray it a number of times before it would sink in and I could actually accept that I can know freedom. I didn't think it was possible, but it is. And God has just set me free from that unforgiveness, from that pain, from that anger, from those horrific memories. They don't haunt me anymore. Today I can say, "Get thee behind me, Satan," to try to get me back to that dark place. And today I can refuse. If I were to ever encounter somebody that was thinking about reading that prayer of freedom, I would spend however long it took, try to convince them that they absolutely need to do that. Because in these over 40 years of the pain and the guilt and the shame and all the horrors that go with it, and if I can be set free, there's nobody that can't. And I would tell you that once you start praying it, once you let God lead it and start to experience the joy of freedom, it touches your heart in a way that nothing else ever has.
Hi there, I'm Beatty Carmichael, and wasn't that an amazing story? That story is just one of so many stories of people getting free from a book called The Prayer of Freedom. And I wrote The Prayer of Freedom to walk you through step by step. It's almost like a how-to guide. How do you appeal to the God of this universe who created us in such a way that consistently it brings healing and restoration into people's lives? Anything from anxiety to depression, panic attacks, marriage and family relationship struggles, addictions, and almost anything else. And as we've done this through group studies and have tested and tracked the results, nearly 9 out of 10 people get complete and immediate breakthrough from so many of the issues that they struggle with. So if you struggle with any issues, let me encourage you to get a copy of The Prayer of Freedom and start going through it today. All you have to do is go to the website link, theprayeroffreedombook.com. You'll learn more about it and links on it where to get it. Again, it's theprayeroffreedombook.com. And if you get that book and go through it, then I'll look forward to seeing you on the other side of freedom. Thanks for watching, and be very blessed.